Sound check. Headset mic. Sound check. Weird and kind of echoey. Oh, okay. Actually, no. CT. We'll turn that one off. Test. Sounding. Test. Is that still coming through? Yeah. Test. Okay. How's that? Did the echoey weird thing disappear? Yeah. Okay. We're good. Pulpit mic test. That good?
Good morning. Whether you're participating online or here in person, we say welcome home to Live Oak Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Barbara Coldiron, and I am so glad you're here. For our guests, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the Live Oak weekly newsletter. It's the go-to place to know everything about what is happening here. There is a link on our homepage. Thanks to all of you for your continued care in following the current guidelines for in-person service so we can provide as safe an environment as possible during what remains a challenging time. We wear masks, observe social distancing, ask children to remain under parent supervision, hum rather than sing to songs, and use gestures of respect and connection other than hugs to greet each other, and to keep a sense of humor during it all. And now, here and at home, let us light our chalices. This is With Love as My Guide by Cindy Terlazzo. Amidst the swirl of life's challenges, fears, and even moments of crisis, I make time to gaze at the night sky to see the vastness there, and to remember that this moment in time is but a flicker, not an inconsequential flicker, for what I do and think now does matter. My work, though, is to let the debris of this world pass by, while I anchor myself to what I know is true: love, kindness, compassion, and caring for this precious life, this precious planet, and all that call this place home. This is my North Star. With love as my guide, how can I possibly go wrong? Our opening hymn is Find a Stillness, performed by the Live Oak Choir.
This day is a precious gift. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. In the words of our theological forebears, the Universalist Humiliati, this church is a fellowship of people united by a common need for religious growth and companionship. We are not a company of saints perfect in faith and righteousness, but acknowledging our failures and shortcomings, we desire to be better than we are and to seek together the fullness of principled living. We strive to journey together in love and peace, to seek the truth, and to strengthen and uphold one another. We covenant to make love the doctrine of our life and to make our life a continuing quest for the truth that it may be made manifest in our words and our deeds. It is an ancient and sacred ritual to gather together with others to seek for answers, to be reminded every week of our worthy aspirations, and to be in loving community. During times of war, instability, disease, want, still people gather to remember what is good and true and life-giving, and to be in communion with one another. Let us celebrate the promises and the possibilities of this day together. Every week when we gather, we share pieces of our lives with each other. We share our sorrows so that we may offer comfort to one another, and we share our joys so that we may celebrate together. And today, in line with Coming Out Day on Monday, Becca Russell shares her coming out as intersex. She writes, the I in LGBTQIA+, intersex is an umbrella term for differences in sex traits or reproductive anatomy. Intersex people are born with these differences or develop them in childhood. There are many possible differences in genitalia, hormones, internal anatomy, or chromosomes compared to the usual two ways that human bodies develop. And she writes, Becca's preferred pronouns are she and they. In this religious community, we hold with reverence the knowledge that each week a multitude of different emotions and experiences are brought together into this space. One of us may be celebrating. Today, that would be those of you who identify as Aggies. One of us may be weeping, or more than one of us, that would be those of us who identify as Longhorns. One filled with determination, one with despair. The mosaic of all these funny and serious experiences is holy, and we honor all with our witness. So, did any of you, when you were growing up, did y'all ever hear that story about the little red hen? Anyone, right? The little red hen that's like, will you help me, and will you help me, and will you help me? And everyone's like, nah. And then it's time the little red hen bakes a loaf of bread, and after asking for help in doing that, and then everyone comes around and is like, I'd like some of that, right? All the people that wouldn't help. I hate that story. Oh my gosh, like what a shaming, guilt-inducing story, right? And yet there is some truth of it. But you know what? I'm a Unitarian Universalist, and what I can do is I can rewrite stories, being very careful, of course, about cultural, taking that over. But I think that I'm okay here. This is the little purple hen. The little purple hen found a sack of wheat seed and rushed to tell all of her friends, "Look at all this seed I found," said the little purple hen. "Let's see if it's still good," said Pig. He examined it under a microscope and saw that most of the seeds were fresh and ready to be used. "You'll want some of my special fertilizer for that," said Cow. She hurried home to get some. "I love to plant," said Puppy, who was only 4 years old. "Can I help you with that?" And Puppy and Little Purple Hen planted all the seeds that Pig examined and found fresh, and added the fertilizer that Cow brought. Several weeks went by, and the seeds began to grow. The Little Purple Hen planned on using Saturday to do her weeding. When she got outside that morning, she was shocked. There were no weeds. "That must be some fertilizer," she said. Just then, Farmer Joe wandered on by. "Farmer Joe, all the weeds in my garden disappeared," said the Little Purple Hen. Yep, they did," he laughed. "A cow and a pig and a puppy were over here yesterday, and they pulled them all up. Of course, I'm kind of an expert on weeds, so I showed them what to pull up and what to leave." Thank you, said Little Purple Hen. As the weeks went by, the sun ripened the wheat until it was ready to harvest. The Little Purple Hen got up early Saturday morning and went down to her garden. There was Farmer Joe with his nice plow and cow and pig and puppy and someone else. This is my friend Cat, said Pig. We're here to help with the harvest. Nice to meet you, Cat, said the Little Purple Hen. Oh, I love a good harvest, purred Cat. And they all worked together, harvesting the wheat. They discussed getting the wheat ground into flour. You know, I have a brother-in-law who owns a granary, said Cat. She called him up, and he said he'd be happy to let them use his grinding machine after hours. I'll take it over there, said Farmer Joe. Oh, we all want to go with you, said all the friends. So they all went over to the granary, and while the machine worked, they ate pizza. Cat's brother-in-law joined them and said, You know, I have a friend who owns a bakery. He has big ovens. Maybe you could use them. Wow, said the Little Purple Hen. I just planned on making one loaf of bread, but with all this grain that we've harvested, and if we could use those big ovens, we could make many loaves. A few days later, Little Purple Hen and cow and pig and puppy and Farmer Joe and Cat's brother-in-law all met at the bakery of Cat's brother-in-law's friend Horse. They mixed the dough and they let it rise and they baked it in the giant ovens. They kept doing this over and over. At the end of the day, they put the last loaves in the oven and counted all the loaves that were cooling on the counters. And with those in the oven, we'll have 267 loaves, said Pig. They all looked at each other in amazement. Well, of course, we'll each take some of the bread, said the Little Purple Hen, but there's so much. What will we do with it all? And Cow said, I know of a homeless shelter that would love fresh bread. And Puppy said, I know of a daycare program with kids that would love fresh bread. And Pig said, I know of a food pantry with giant freezers so they can freeze a lot of bread to eat later. And so they shared all of the bread, and each took home several loaves and felt very rich indeed, and felt very proud of themselves for all that they had accomplished. And Little Purple Hen said, thank you. And for me, as minister of this church, that's the story that fits more with the experience of what I have seen here.
Every week, we engage in the spiritual practice of generosity, combining our resources with the ministries of this church. Part of our mission is to empower dreams, and this Sunday, we will be sharing the offering with Camp Kasem to help empower their dream to support children impacted by a parent with cancer. If you wish, you may go to liveoakuu.org and click on Donate, or place a check in the green offering box after the service. Our offertory music today is Like a Mighty Stream by Moses Hogan, performed by the Live Oak Choir with Darja Tamanovic on piano.
be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity. Those were the words of Unitarian Horace Mann at the graduation ceremony of Antioch College in 1859. And sitting in the audience was a student, Universalist Olympia Brown, who was making her way at a time when many women did not go down the path of college education. From then she went on to seminary, and then she became the first female minister who was ordained by a denomination in the United States. She was ordained into Universalist ministry. This idea that what we are here for is to do something beyond the confines of our own lives. This is a deep part of our faith. Our theme this month, for the month of October, is design the life that you want to live. I think there's a whole lot of us that are really thinking about this. The pandemic has made us question some things in our life. Do we really want to go back to spending hours stuck commuting in traffic? Do we want, with our children, to be running around from activity to activity to activity? And it's not just those who are, it's not just the working folk who are wondering about what they want from their life, but retired folks too are looking and saying, how can I make the most of the time that I have left? So, how can you design your life to maximize satisfaction? I realize that question may sound a little self-indulgent, a little self-centered. But as far as we know for sure, each of us only get one life, and who better to decide what is satisfying to us than us deciding about our own lives. And the thing is, if you look at the research, study after study, asking this question about what makes for a satisfying life, what makes for a life that people are happy and fulfilled to live, the answer is not self-indulgent at all. The answer comes down to service and finding a way to be of use beyond our own personal concerns. Cicero said it as non nobis solum, kind of distilling down the wisdom of Plato into the idea of not for ourselves alone. The idea that life is a gift and that we are born not for ourselves alone, but that we have, each one of us, some purpose for the rest of humanity, to make things better in some way for someone or for humanity itself. This is bedrock to our faith. And it's not just Unitarian Universalism. You can find it in many religions and many philosophies. Gandhi said that if you want to find yourself, the best way to do that is to lose yourself in service of others. But for us as Unitarian Universalists, even before we combined in 1961, back when we were two separate religious movements of the Unitarians and the Universalists, this has always been bedrock to our faith. We are a religion of deeds, not creeds. Horace Mann did what is encouraged in this religion. He found the beliefs that made sense to him, that were truth to him, and he was filled with conviction. And so he went out into the world to take those beliefs and turn them into action. He grew up in poverty. His father died when he was 13 years old. His family could only send him to school for 10 weeks out of every year, but somehow he managed to educate himself enough, due in part to the local library, which had been filled by books donated by none other than Benjamin Franklin. And he somehow was able to educate himself enough that he could be admitted to Brown University, where he would become later their valedictorian. Unlike some people, unlike some politicians we see today, he did not use that as an excuse to say, look at what I did. Y'all should be able to do it that way too. If I can do it, anyone can do it. Instead, he did the thing that all compassionate people who have gone through a hard time do. He said, no one should have to do what I did. No one should have to struggle that hard. He did many things in his life. He worked ardently against slavery. He was a congressperson. But the big thing that captured his heart was the Unitarian belief in the equality of all people. He grew up Congregationalist, but like so many people at that time, he moved into Unitarianism. He rejected the Calvinism of that day, the Calvinism that said, well, people are not born equal. Some people, right, are born better than others. He rejected that, and he was so filled with this conviction about the equality of all people, and based on his own experience, he knew that what every person deserved so that they could reach their full potential was the possibility of a good education. At that time, he said this: education, beyond all other devices of human origin, is the great equalizer of the conditions of people, the balance wheel of the social machinery. And he is considered to be the father of public education in the United States. And you'll be hearing more about that in November. He wasn't the only one. This is simply, again, we are a religion of deeds, not creeds. This is what we do. And so many people who we look at as heroes were Unitarians or Universalists. It was Frances Ellen Watkins Harper and Susan B. Anthony working for women's suffrage. Dorothea Dix, who completely changed how we treat the mentally ill. Clara Barton, starting the Red Cross. These are the giants that are our theological forebears. We stand on their shoulders. And I think that it's right that we remember them, that we talk about them, that we talk about how they are a part of this religion. They are our people. We should be inspired by them. And the one thing that gives me pause about all of this is I don't think we talk about the fact that for every one of those people whose names we know, whose names are written in textbooks and written into our hymnal, for every one of those who achieved a victory for humanity, there were 1,000 other people working and making that victory possible whose names we don't know. Because the victories don't just happen through one person, and they don't happen through a speech. I say that as someone who makes speeches for a living. Speeches are great, but they are not how the victories are won. The victories are won through work. There has to be someone who is writing the pamphlet, another person who is figuring out how to print the pamphlet, the people who are going door to door and handing out the pamphlets, the people who are arranging for the lecture hall, the people who are setting up the chairs in the lecture hall, the people who are sweeping up the lecture hall at the end of the meeting. There are so many victories that happen because of the little steps involved. Filling up a box of food and putting it on a truck. Mother Teresa said, "We can do no great things, only small things with great love." And going back to all of that research about what makes for a satisfying life, what we'll find is that it's the people who have said, I am going to figure out in my life how to carve out a little bit of time so that I can serve in some way. That's what makes for a satisfying life. I think it's because it's something that is part of the best of human nature. And when we do that, we know that we are here for a purpose. And we are part of something that is shared with others. Our symbol is the flaming chalice, which I love. And there's a lot of poetic symbolism that will often use when we talk about it, right? About the flame of love and truth, and the chalice, the container that holds it all. But I got to tell you, my favorite symbolism about it is the ordinariness of its origin story. Because we didn't start out like lighting beautiful flaming chalices like this. What happened was during the Holocaust, a group of Unitarians called the Unitarian Service Committee went to Europe and they set up an office. And their goal was to get out as many of the people who were in danger in Nazi-occupied countries as they could. And they did that, not with guns or with armies, but with paperwork. It may not be sexy, but often things like paperwork are the things that make the big difference. Paperwork, in this case, literally saved lives. But in order for that paperwork to look official, they needed a logo. And so they went to an artist, Hans Deutsch, and he created the logo of the flaming chalice. It started, that beautiful thing there, it started as a piece of paperwork. And that paperwork saved thousands of lives. It's not as sexy as the guns and armies. People don't tend to make movies about that, although there is an absolutely wonderful documentary called The Sharps War. I've got a copy in my office if you'd like to borrow it, and it's talking all about this. It's not sexy, but the way that victories are won is by the small things that all add up to victories. And there's so many things that as a member of this church that we can help you get towards. We have both social justice happening and community service. Let us know what fills you with conviction, and we can help you find your particular way to find purpose and meaning. And some of that may be serving at this church. I'm not going to shy away from that, because I think that this church, I know that this church, it changes lives. And so the work that you do for this church is part of that victory too. Olympia Brown, sitting there and listening to those words of Horace Mann, would be filled with her own convictions. She would go on and become one of the leading suffragists. In fact, she's one of the few suffragists that did the work and lived long enough to actually be able to vote herself. And she became a Universalist parish minister, often going to churches that were having a hard time and helping them be revitalized. And she said this: "Dear friends, stand by this faith. Work for it and sacrifice for it. There is nothing in all the world so important to you as to be loyal to this faith, which has placed before you the loftiest ideals, which has comforted you in sorrow, strengthened you for noble duty, and make the world beautiful for you. Do not demand immediate results, but rejoice that you are worthy to be entrusted with this great message, and that you are strong enough to work for a great true principle without counting the cost." So, what will be your victory for humanity? And what are the changes that you will make in your day-to-day life so that you can carve out some time to take those little baby steps toward victory? I invite you now into a time of meditation and prayer and reflection, whichever word it is that works for you, making yourself a little more comfortable, relaxing into what is turning into maybe a beautiful day, and closing your eyes if you're comfortable doing so. There is a joke about how Unitarian Universalists pray, "To whom it may concern." I enjoy that joke. I think it lifts up the humility we have in acknowledging that we don't have all the answers. But on another level, the answer is simple. A prayer concerns us. Whether there is some force that changes circumstances based on a prayer, I know that a prayer can change me. And so I find it helpful to pray for me to be changed, for me to receive clarity, for me to be reminded that the gift of life asks for my thank you to be in the form of helping others. The rock band U2 includes spiritually themed songs on their albums. Their song Yahweh is such a prayer asking, "Take these hands, teach them what to carry. Take these hands, don't make a fist. Take this mouth so quick to criticize. Take this mouth, give it a kiss." May our hands be used in service to our highest values. May our voices be made strong to speak truth to power. May our minds be used to serve others with strategy and creativity. And may our hearts break so that they are opened wider to see the needs around us. In the name of love we pray. Amen. Our closing hymn is "I Lift My Voice" by Andrea Ramsey, performed by our choir with Bowman Mays on piano.
When I lift my voice, let it be in song, a defiant note in the face of wrong. I won't stand alone, we'll stand side by side, 'cause we know that love is always justified. When they try to divide us, it will only unite us. I lift my voice. When I lift my voice, let it be for good. Let me care as much as I know I should. I won't stand alone, we'll stand side by side, 'cause we know that love is always justified. When they try to divide us, it will only unite us. I lift my voice.
Good morning. I'm Carrie Krause, the Director of Lifespan Faith Development here at Live Oak. Today, we start our regular religious education program here on site. So I just want to explain what's going to happen. Around 10:30, we'll gather in specific areas. Over to this side, you'll see the easel. That is where our middle school and elementary youth will gather for their class. I'd ask the preschoolers to go over there too, and we'll see what kind of numbers we have this morning. Way down near the road, there's a blanket, and that's where our high school youth, which is 8th grade and up right now, will gather. And then at this accessible picnic table here, I invite the adults to gather, not at the table, but around the table. Please bring your chairs over to the table. We will be broadcasting the adult portion, and you can find that link on the What's Happening page for those of you at home. So if you're sitting in the area, particularly over here, I would ask that you clear your things and come congregate in this area for fellowship, because we'll need to set up for RE.
Going old school here, all the way back to the Hebrew Bible. In Isaiah 6:8, there is this section where the prophet says, "Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?' And I said, 'Here am I, send me.'" It's not always easy nor convenient to be the person who says yes or who says, "Send me." But that's how we get those victories that we celebrate. May you be reminded that you are lovable and loved, that life is fragile and a gift, and you are not alone. Oh, and one more thing. Those green bags, in case you don't already have them, you already have an opportunity right now to be of service and serve the world. We want you to grab one of those bags and take them home, and then you can bring them back any Sunday or every Sunday with non-perishables, and those will go to our partners at Hill Country Community Ministries.
We invite you to stay after the service to enjoy fellowship time with one another and the faith development activities of this day. We extinguish this flame, but we recommit anew to carrying into our week the flame of justice and love. May we share with others the courage and strength we find here. Our postlude is the song Yahweh by U2, performed by Bill Dower and Sam Gleason.
Take these shoes, click-clacking down some dead-end street. Take these shoes and make them fit, yeah. Take this shirt, polyester white trash made in nowhere. Take this shirt and make it clean, clean. Take this soul, stranded in some skin and bones. Take this soul and make it sing, sing. Yahweh, Yahweh, always been before the child is born. Yahweh, Yahweh, quick.